Johnston's Run Revitalization Council, in collaboration with MacWell, the Mercersburg Area Community for Wellness, and the local municipalities, is working to restore Johnston's Run as a living waterway, inspiring our local communities to be stewards of our natural habitats and becoming a model for other communities. And I just want to go over real quickly who our speakers will be tonight. Liz George, she's a local physician and business owner of Tuscarora Family Practice and founder and director and council member of Johnston's Run, of the Johnston's Run Council, and a board chairman of MacWell and MPMC. MPMC is the Montgomery, Peters, and Mercersburg connectivity. Wink Hastings, he's a landscape architect. He's with the National Park Services at the Chesapeake Bay program. And he met with MPMC, encouraging us to move forward and apply for the NIFWIF Foundation grant, which is National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. And that's the grant that's helping fund this project. Michael Piper is our environmental scientist in natural resource management with KCI Technologies. And KCI Technologies philosophy is knowledge, creativity, and innovation. We have Liz McClintock, and she's the president and council member of Mercersburg Borough. She's a JBMS science teacher and the former director and program developer of our TWEP Center, and she's still an active board member. And she's one of the council members for our Johnston's Run Council. We have Jennifer Conning, and she's with EFC, which is Environmental Finance Center, and they will be helping us with our capacity building and implementation of the grant and finding funding. And we have Tammy Piper, and Tammy is a watershed specialist with Franklin County Conservation District. And I'm Laura Puckett, and I'm just a local mom and grandma and citizen. So we're gonna, today is, I just wanna go over with you our agenda. My job is basically introducing and trying to help manage the time, so we're not here too long. Liz George will, she will be our presenter, and you can see the agenda over there, and there's some along the walls. She's going to explain how we got to where we are and what the different acronyms, you'll hear a lot of acronyms thrown about, and it took me a while to, like, what's this? What's, NIFWIF, and what's EFC, and what's MPMC, and all these letters. So she'll help explain some of that. And my job is also to do the vision for Johnston's Run.
That's what I was just looking for.
And then we have our managing our watersheds, which is
That chair's for Hook,
National
ain't it?
Park Service.
For Hooky.
And
Jim Hook.
then we have watershed basics and current conditions and the waterway trail, and that will be with Mike Piper. And our educational aspect and outreach to our students with Liz McClintock, and community views and places of interest will be with Jennifer. And everybody, yeah.
That's good.
We have group, as you can see at the tables, we're going to get up and move around, and that will be a good time to eat too. We'll be working at the different tables, and we want input from everybody. This is our community, and we're all part of it, and we know everybody has different ideas and opinions, and we all want to work together to make it the best community that we can. And then we're going to have a wrap up, and Liz George then will finish things up with what the next steps are. We have a desired outcomes. We have a list of community input and ideas and concerns. And then understanding watershed management and Johnston's Run watershed. Understanding MPMC pedestrian and bicycle network and Johnston's Run waterway trail and how that all connects and what that's about. Maps with places of interest and identified by participants. That's what we all want your input and the group project is. And lists of interest and volunteers for future involvement. So I'm going to now ask Ms. George to take it away. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to repeat what Laura said, which is it's really great to see everybody tonight. I'm afraid I'm in you guys' way. How do I stand?
No, that's fine.
Oh, that's right. Don't move that. Okay. But before I start, and just explain how we got from what's this community physician got to do with Johnson's Run and how we got this whole distance, I just wanted to ask, how many of you have heard a person say or are wondering, are they going to take our land? How many have heard people say anything like that? Is anybody here worried they're going to take our land?
No, they're gonna
Okay,
try.
all right, good. So I want to start by saying Macwell, this project cannot, will not, has no power, has no interest in taking anybody's land. We don't have any eminent domain thing going on. There's absolutely nothing, and we would have no interest in taking anybody's land. So, none.
Could I say something, please?
Yeah.
Because you wrote that article and you said, where does anybody get this idea? You go online, put in hike, bike trail, eminent domain. Scores of examples across the country come up about using eminent domain to take to take people's land for bike trails. I know your group has no, and I perfectly believe you when you say you have no interest, and I know you have no power. But the municipalities and the counties can enact that power, and I have scores of examples. I could give you one after the other.
Okay.
Where eminent domain has been used, and sometimes it starts out with a group like yours that has no intention, but then other people get involved and they have their own ideas,
Okay.
and they do resort to eminent domain sometimes, especially when some of these things have already gotten started and they've gotten so far and there's a few holdouts. It has been used. So I just want you to understand that's where people get the idea. It's not coming out of nowhere. It's coming out of the facts across the country where it's happened.
Okay, that's great, and that's good to know that that's what's causing the upsetment. So that's really good. That's helpful. Thank you. So you know where we are on it, and I know where you are on it, so that's really good. Okay, so just to back up to just how this all came about, maybe you don't even want to know, but I'll go through things. Where's my forward bar here? So Macwell, I'm going to talk about what's Macwell, what's MPMC, what are these two groups, how'd that get to Johnston's Run revitalization, and who are these other people that have shown up. So why is a physician concerned about Johnston's Run? It's really not just about this pretty waterway, and it's not just about riding bikes. 15 years ago, it was rare, and some of you have heard me say this before, but I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. It was rare to see a 10-year-old in my office weighing over 150 pounds, and now it's common. That's bigger than me for a 10-year-old. And our teenagers over 200 pounds. And that's not common, that is common, and that's not a great thing for a teenager trying to go to school and weighing over 200 pounds. This is just a map of obesity rates in the United States. Blue, the medium color blue, is less than 10 to 14%. Your bright red is, the deep red is greater than 30%, and others in between. So you see in 1990, in the country, there wasn't any state that had obesity rates greater than 14%. And then by 2000, we started seeing states that had obesity rates between 20 and 24%.
A little louder, please. Sorry.
What's that?
Can you be a little louder?
I can be louder. I had 5 brothers. So that's by 2000, and then by 2010, we actually now have, look at the large portion of states that have obesity rates over 30%. So that's why I'm alarmed. And we should be alarmed. Because I'm seeing teens with high blood pressure and type 2 diabetes. That's not normal. This will be the first generation whose lifespan is less than their parents. In Mercersburg, more than 30% of our youth will be obese in their 20s. And in Boulder, Colorado, it's 14%. So what's up here? And what can we do? What can we do to turn that trend around? Because those are the people that are going to run our ambulance squad. that are gonna run our stores, that are gonna be our future teachers, and they're not gonna be healthy enough to do it. 40% of kids are ineligible for military service because of obesity. So MACWELL, Mercersburg Area Council for Wellness, was created. Then the Council for Wellness was organized to create and support a groundswell of personal and community commitment to making the Mercersburg area a place that inspires its population to live well. So what does a community have to look like in order for people living there want to be healthy and make healthy choices? And our board members include representatives from the school district, local government, service organizations, medical providers, and businesses. And I'm just going to remind you, these are some of the projects that MACWELL has done. The fitness trail, lots of wonderful volunteers helped with that. Our Everyday Chef community cooking class with local chefs involved. This was our we have a 28-day adventure. People take on healthy eating for 28 days, and you're seeing greater than 50% of people are getting dramatic reductions in LDL and significant changes. So that's why I'm determined that's what healthy lifestyles can do. The business wellness games are going on now. Helping the employees makes a huge difference to the bottom line for businesses. So 30 years ago, and this is one of the reasons I moved here, kids could walk and ride all over the community. So MACWELL asked, what would it take to stitch that community back together? So we went to the planning committee. This was way back before I knew all about town structure and everything. And we said, what could we get it so that the kids can walk to school? And at that meeting, it was really amazing because that committee said, well, what about, could we get it so we could walk to parks? Could we get it so people could walk on errands? And so that really was that meeting that started this whole sensation of what could we do to get a walkable, bikeable community. And that's how MPMC got started. There was then a community forum where they appointed Montgomery, Peters, Mercersburg Connectivity Steering Committee. And that steering committee spent some time looking at walkable, bikeable communities. And we looked at the CDC studies, and they say, yeah, it's worthwhile. In communities where there's healthy eating and exercise habits in walkable, bikeable communities, they improve. And just 30 minutes of walking a day, like what it might take for you to go on an errand, or what it might take for you to ride your bike to school, or to ride your bike to business. 40% decrease in heart disease and strokes, along with the healthy diet. 60% decrease in diabetes, that's what these kids are facing. 50% decrease in Alzheimer's, that's what we're all facing. Maybe you're not. Decreased depression and sleep disorders. And believe me, those kids that are weighing over 200 pounds are facing those problems. Decreased arthritis and increased balance, agility, and bone density. So that's why we're so committed. We also found that walkable, bikeable communities have higher property. They have higher property prices. They're attractive to visitors, so you strengthen your local businesses, and you also keep those activities going for the people that live there. So that convinced us, and then that's what had us reach out and learning from other communities to do what's called a feasibility study. Could this be a walkable, bikeable community? And some of you actually contributed to the funding of the feasibility study. You can see there are a lot of people on the study team from the community, and we had it done actually by a community architect team from Philadelphia that's done a number of community walkability, bikeability projects. And we also had community workshops just like this. So this then is what the feasibility study said. It said, yes, you can create a safe and scenic network of routes that allows people to walk and bike to school, to work, to stores, on errands, to historic and recreational sites, or just for fun. In other words, we could do it. It's not saying it's like that, but we can do it, and we have a plan of it created as a result of the feasibility studies. And both townships and the borough have the plan, and we work to get it onto the Franklin County long-term plan as well, and their transportation plan. So what's all this got to do with Johnson Run? So here's Johnson Run. It actually makes a very nice scenic connection for people to get from one place to the other in our town. And while we were out walking around looking at where can people go, where can they walk from one place to the other, we actually discovered we really have a really beautiful stream that runs through the borough property down there where the tannery used to be. There's an amazingly beautiful area there that we basically turned our backs on, and maybe we dump our stormwater in there, and maybe we get mad at it for flooding. But it's a beautiful area. But it's also, we discovered, it's an impaired waterway. So that had us recognize that it's not just about putting in a trail or asking could we put in a park. It's really about what's going on with that waterway. And it's because it's really a whole big picture, which is what I've been talking about, which is how I got started way back then. It's not just one thing that makes a community healthy. So in the process of doing the feasibility study, we were introduced to Wink Hastings with the National Park Service, and he helped us get a grant through the River Trails Conservancy Assistance. So we have his technical assistance and knowledge, the National Park Service knowledge helping us on this, which has been very helpful. National Fish and Wildlife Foundation, Wink helped us write a grant, and the townships actually are the ones that are the grantees on this. And that grant is going to help us do the waterway assessment. It's a collaborative capacity building grant. In other words, they don't hand out money. They help us get technical assistance and advice. And that's Mike and Jen. So that's KCI and Environmental Finance Center. So that's how that works. And it's really nice that they're giving us the help and not the money, because it takes a whole nother layer of people if you have to deal with hiring people and handling the money and all that. So we don't have to deal with that, which is really great. And we have top level people helping. So that's how it's all connected. It's not just about one thing. It's about healthy food, it's about an active lifestyle, it's about a healthy environment, and it takes a whole community. Oh, I didn't even mention. So I didn't give you guys a chance to pipe up with questions, but if there was, what I think the best thing to do, I don't think there's anything that's hard to understand in this, is to gather your questions and your thoughts, and then we're going to have a lot of time for questions during the table work here and also at the end, unless there's any question that you don't understand what I've said so far that's keeping you from thinking about it. Yes?
Okay. Dr. Elizabeth, I'm afraid that I am here for different reasons. Up to this point, I have really been thrilled with everything that MPMC has done in our community. There's no doubt about it. I love your arts communication. And I sincerely appreciate your efforts thus far. However, this project does concern me for the same reason that this young lady mentioned before. I am a person who does a lot of walking in Mercersburg. There's no doubt that I'm overweight, but I have found a lot of wonderful places to walk in our developments. Now, I don't bike, and I realize that is a big problem. And I do realize that you are saying that our young people need to be inspired. And I would rather see them be inspired within the schools, with what they're eating, and also with their gym programs. Quite frankly, I think they're dramatically lacking. My husband and I own a dairy farm, and we are very much concerned with this project, because we are afraid, as this young lady says, about what this may inspire in the future. Knowing this is not your intention, but realizing that this could be a major problem for some of your business owners in your community.
Okay, so let's keep that on the table because it's a very important fact. And also, I 100% agree with you about the schools taking part in that there's a whole role for them and that there's a role for everybody.
It's not any one person.
Commissions are here.
Oh, there we go. No, I thought it was turned off. So there's a role for that, for healthy lunches, for the exercise program, and actually Macwell's working with them on the lunches. And so there's definitely a role, and it's important for the community to communicate with the schools on that. But we're totally going to keep what you're saying on the table because it's very, very important.
Any other questions?
What about safety and liability? I mean, if something happens on this trail, who's liable?
Okay, so there's going to be a lot of questions like that I think let's do the whole presentation, but we'll write down those questions because that's one that we're grappling with, and so you can be on the committee that helps look at that. But we really looked at we're researching what other committees are doing, and that's why we have National Park Services, but that's totally, and so you guys are really keying into the important points.
I have a question. You're making a huge assumption that kids are going to get off their arses and walk and bike and do all this stuff. How are you going to indoctrinate the children to do that?
I am going to beat their, no, I'm kidding. It is going to take a long time for that to happen because you have a whole generation of parents that wants them to sit in front of the TV or doesn't know how to, because, so that's a very, very important question, and that whole thing. But we do know from the research, from the CDC research, that it does happen. That when you put the trails there, you do eventually get people out. But that's exactly what the crux of it is. So it doesn't happen overnight. It's not like we open the trail and then everybody's out there riding. But slowly but surely, you see more and more. But that's absolutely the case. And it takes education. Part of what will have to happen is education through the school, through the community.
Can we, if it's possible to hold the questions till the end, could you please so you don't forget, write down the questions? Because they're very important. And we want to make sure we don't forget it. Do you need pens? Does everybody have pens? Pass around the pens at the table so you can write them down. Okay, unless it's something that we just went over that you really don't understand and it can't wait. We don't want to not address something that needs to be said. Yes, Marianne?
What is an impaired waterway, and how do we know ours is impaired?
Okay, that will be covered. Okay, thank you. Now, this is really important. We want you to tell us, what do you love about Mercersburg?
Nobody uses it.
Okay, does everyone love something about Mercersburg?
Yeah.
Yes.
I love that we are an agricultural farming community with lots of vital farmers right now. We'd like to keep it that way.
Yes, without interference.
Freedom.
Okay, next.
Lovely, we're not California.
Anything else? Yes.
I like the fact that there's the James Buchanan State Park. I've been going to there for 10 years. So I drive through the beautiful downtown, but because there's no place to walk, we just keep going through to the state park, and it's lovely there. But, you know, I don't ever stop in the town. So I don't know if someone's up in town, but I like the state park.
James Buchanan State Park. Okay, something else. The quicker we are, and you guys can grab yourself some food while we're doing this. Anything else? Everyone's grown up here so many years, you've taken it for granted and you don't love anything anymore?
I love the view of the mountains.
Okay, they love the view of the mountains. I love being able to see the sunrise and the sunset.
It's supposed to be motivation, I think.
I grew up here,
and I couldn't wait to get out. So as soon as I was 18, I split, lived in other parts of the country for about 10 years, and then moved back about 5 years ago and realized that it's actually a really wonderful place to live. The pace of life is good, but the reason I left as a teenager, there's not many opportunities for teenagers in this town. And so to see something like this as a possibility, to see the potential for people to collaborate on this, for landowners to work with the parks, and for community citizens to get involved, that's exciting to me, and that inspires me. And as somebody who has a 9-month-old son now, I'd like to see him maybe have a different experience than I did growing up here. So that's what I love about Mercersburg, is the pace of life and the opportunity to always improve.
Thank you. Anyone else? Someone from this table? Do you like living here?
Yes.
What do you like?
I like that I can always wake up in the morning and say that I'm glad I live here because I love my town and that it's not too loud at night and it's just peaceful in the morning.
Thank you very much. That was awesome. Okay, anyone else have something to say?
I'm her grandfather, that's where she got that idea. I love this town and I love Johnson Run. As kids, some of you, I look around and see some faces may be familiar with this. Of course, the run when it came into Mercersburg, from there on became an open sewer. And one of our things as kids was to walk along the stream with sticks trying to throw you-know-what on each other. That was one activity that we did, and we'd walk the other way up to Clearwater, away from the sewer. That's where the old mill race used to come down to the mill in town. And up there it would be flipping water snakes out and things of that sort. Well, I think culturally, we as a people have gotten away from that kind of thing for our young people. I agree in some respects that we are a TV culture and TV generation. But it's a great place to live. I've traveled around the world. There's no place like Mercersburg. We've got great scenic quality here. The only other problem I see is a revitalization of downtown. It used to be that you could walk downtown and go in and out of different stores. Of course, many malls have killed that. And that's nothing, I don't know if we can ever bring it back or not. But we can be attractive to an awful lot of other people that in the end will be good for us as long as we don't overgrow it. I have some problems with this project, which I'll bring up later, but that's one reason I love Mercersburg. I love the people in the town. They say hello and smile and things you don't get in cities.
Thank you so much. Oops, sorry. Anyone else?
If you have visitors come to Mercersburg, where do you take them? What do you show them?
Mercersburg.
Don't take them anywhere?
Has anyone here ever done the walking tour and used the brochures? Yes. Okay, I have some students here from around the world, and we took them on the walking tour, so I'm going to let them say something about it.
Good evening.
Tell them where you're from.
I'm from Kyrgyzstan. I'm an exchange student for this year, and Laura is my coordinator. So first week when I came here, she took us for a tour, and it was really nice. And it was tour, and we used the brochures from the library, from the Mercersburg library, and we saw the buildings. They were built a long time ago, like in 19th century, and it was part of the history. It was historical treasure, I would say, and it was really nice. I was really happy to see it, and I think it was really a nice walk. I enjoyed it. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
We need to make sure we add the environmental center, Tuscarora Wildlife, Charlie Brightbill, and that's come together. Exciting things happening there. New director, some walking out there, but not much. It would be nice to be able to connect that to other places. But we just had close to 200 people out there for a program on Sunday, and that was wonderful. Yeah.
So I want to thank you guys. I'm sure we'll come up with other conversations of what's so wonderful about this community. I love it here. I love raising my children here. I love living down the street from the ballpark where the kids can play and people are real supportive. I thought that was really good. All the support with your PTAs and community programs, and we have a wonderful library, and it's just a great place. And when you get out and you walk around and you enjoy the Lions Club Park and meet people on foot or on bike, it helps us realize what a great place we live. And I want to thank you all. This is a perfect example of people and citizens that care about their community and where they live. And I just appreciate all of you so much. Okay, Wink, thank you.
If I use the mic, I am not allowed none. I want to give you a little bit of context as to what I think and what the National Park Service thinks of community trails and watershed management. And you'll get a very quick snippet from Mike Piper on what a watershed is and how it works. But I'm going to kind of put things in context, I think. I grew up in New England, and the very favorite part of my childhood was being out in the woods. And I especially liked being on the property that my dad bought up in New Hampshire. It was 30 acres or so, and we had property on one side of a brook. And I could walk along the brook, I could drink the water out of it, I could fish for brook trout, I could pick up frogs and all that stuff. And I just loved that place. I went back when I got out of high school and saw that the landowner across the brook had timbered all the land right up to the brook. And the brook was totally silted in. All the plant life and animal life were dead. And I've been working in natural resources for my entire career because of that. And I've got 38 years working with various federal agencies managing natural resources. And that's why it's so important to me. Children, I live in the city in Baltimore, and I do that because I feel culturally more connected, but I feel as though I have a lighter footprint on the land, on the environment. But it doesn't keep me from going out into the environment and learning. After so many years, I just enjoy that. But a couple things that Liz mentioned that I think are really important. When I was growing up, I lived in a small town, bigger than Mercersburg, but I could walk to school. I never ever rode a bus. More and more children have to either take a bus or drive to school with their parents because it's not safe. With trails and walkways that are dedicated for pedestrians and bikes, in a large city or in a small community like Mercersburg, kids can get around. They can get into the environment and learn more. And there have been several books written on the difficulties that children have because they're not exposed to the environment like they used to be. And they're not getting the outdoor exercise that kids used to. So the other part about trails that I think is really important is there's two parts of our society that are really neglected in terms of activity, recreation, exercise, and mobility. And those are our children and the elderly in the community. And with trails, both of those groups of people, plus the rest of our community, have access to trails and they can be more mobile. They can safely get to different places in the community. So that's really important. It's so important to the National Park Service, and I work totally outside of national park units. I am a group of 75 people nationwide whose sole job is to work with communities like Mercersburg and help you realize the potential of recreation, outdoor recreation, and a clean, healthy environment. And that's my whole goal here, is to help you folks. And it's not to tell you what to do, it's to help you do what you want to do. About the one thing in terms of health that I'll say is that the National Park Service actually started a program, and we're going to talk to Liz about this as we go through the project. There are a number of physicians around the country who are actually prescribing and writing prescriptions for people to do exercise. And not just to say, go figure out where to exercise, but to actually tell them where they can exercise safely and how long to exercise, how long to walk, in terms of miles or minutes. And we call that one Take a Hike and Call Me in the Morning. And there's a number of physicians around the country that are doing that. The other thing that we're doing, and Mercersburg will be invited to participate if you folks want to. We have a pilot program with CDC, Center for Disease Control, which has done a tremendous amount on health and wellness in the public health arena. And we can participate with them on a community assessment that they're designing for communities just like Mercersburg. And you have the opportunity to participate as a pilot study, and then your community can be used as an example for communities around the country. Is a way of providing healthy recreation and exercise to people outside. On the environmental side, like I said, we'll probably never ever be able to drink from a stream the way I did when I was a kid. We'll probably never be able to do that again. However, an impaired waterway will be explained by Mike, but basically the standard for healthy streams in the United States now is fishable, swimmable. You can fish and eat the fish, and you can swim in the waterway. You cannot swim in or wade in Johnston's Run now in a number of places because it is impaired and you could get a serious infection from doing that. And that is something that is, a shame, I think. Like I said, I live in Baltimore, and Baltimore Harbor has an incredible amount of pollution, incredible amount. And I go kayaking there, and I'm working with groups to, clean up the waterway. But that is an enormous task. Johnston's Run really isn't that bad. With a few little improvements, I think it could be great. And then we all could benefit from the clean environment. And that's really what it's all about, I think, at the local level, is creating a healthy, safe environment for the entire community. And if you take care of your waterway, other people in surrounding communities will start to pay attention and will take care of their waterway too. That's how this works. And I've seen that all over the country. And one good project will generate 5 or 6 others around it. And what's good for this community and what you do here to improve Johnston Run will improve the Kankakee, will improve the Potomac River, and improve the Chesapeake Bay. It all starts here, and this is really what you folks, I think, should focus on, is how we create a wonderful, safe, clean environment in Mercersburg, in the watershed, in the whole area. And by doing that, you're contributing to a lot of other things that are very important too. So now, I think Mike is next.
Thank you, Wayne. Love microphones. Thanks for everybody for coming out, and I'm going to go through a bit of sort of a watershed 101 here to get everybody up to speed on the basics of a watershed, how it functions. We'll talk a little bit about Johnson Run in particular, and then we'll talk a little bit at the end about the trail. And as we do this, I'm going to try to rely on sort of maps and pictures as much as I can rather than me talking, so you guys have a nice visual as we go through. And as has been mentioned earlier, if you have questions as we go along, things that you just don't understand aren't allowing you to keep up with the talks, please ask those questions as we go, but save any sort of bigger part questions towards the end. And I'm going to go through this as fast as possible.
I have a question, sir.
Sure.
Could you state your name and your title, please?
Sorry. Mike Piper, and I'm with KCI Technologies. I'm an environmental scientist there. My background is in biology, aquatic ecology, to be a little more specific. And we do quite a bit of watershed planning. We've done projects across Maryland, Virginia, Pennsylvania, New York, Delaware, so the whole mid-Atlantic. So watershed. Anybody not know what a watershed is? No, don't raise your hands. It's a land area where all the water drains to one particular point. And it's drainage on the surface and also groundwater as well. And we've got this little graphic here, and I've got another one later on. And you may hear as we go through this and through the course of this year working on this, these other terms: basin, sub-basin, watershed, sub-watershed, even catchment and drainage area. Those are all basically the same thing. It's a land area where all the water that comes down drains down to a particular point. And so back to a little middle school sort of earth science here. Watersheds, as you might expect, all about water and rainwater and snow. And as it comes down, a lot of the water is intercepted by the tree canopy. The water that does hit the surface has a couple different paths. It can either run off into the stream, it can infiltrate down into the soil in a subsurface flow where the groundwater then flows to the stream channel, or some of it can percolate down into the deeper groundwater. Then all of it eventually makes its way, unless it's in the deep groundwater, makes its way back into the stream channels and starts flowing downhill. So of course, if all of our watersheds look like this, we wouldn't have any problem, right? In a nice forested watershed, and you guys do have a bit of this on the ridge here on Cove Mountain, which is great to have that in the headwaters. In a situation like this, that water is captured, it's allowed to move very slowly down into the soil, and that soil is built up with a nice layer of the leaves and the organic matter that develop as the forest is maturing. And that water moves very slowly through that soil and down to the stream channel, and as it's moving through that soil, it gets cleaned. Any pollutants that come with that water get cleaned out, so it's very clean water moving into the stream. But this is not really reality. This is more reality, right? There's people involved in this equation, and people have houses and schools and shopping centers and all the things that go along with our daily life. So as the rainfall comes down, just picture like your sink. You're washing out your sink. What are you doing? It's basically a watershed. You're washing everything down your sink into the drain. Same thing happens here as it's raining. Anything on the ground, on your driveway, on your rooftop, on your farm fields, everything gets washed down into the stream. And so putting all these things together, we just basically call this land use or land cover, and you'll hear that term come up again as well. And surprisingly, this watershed here looks a little bit like Johnson's Run. We've got the ridge, we've got some agricultural use, we've got some residential use, even a little bit of industry down at the bottom. So in a lot of ways, this looks like Johnston Run. So then we kind of put all this together. Sorry I don't have like a pointer, but working sort of across and then down, you see how things kind of connect. You have the natural setting, which is like the soils and the slopes and the climate of the area. And then you lay on top of that the land use, the amount and the type of development and agriculture and roads and everything else. And that's going to impact the amount of water, so the quantity, but also the quality of that runoff. And then what we start to see down here are the impacts. So too much quantity, flooding. Quality is poor. So we start to get, flooding, stream erosion, and poor water quality. And then what that leads to, as far as the bugs and bunnies are concerned, is habitat degradation. So the habitat within the streams for the fish and amphibians and aquatic insects is degraded, and that's what some people have been alluding to and Wink alluded to. And also our terrestrial environment for birds and mammals is impacted as well. And then what that also leads to is impacts to our habitat. Okay, property is lost when there's massive stream bank erosion and failures. Infrastructure like sewer lines are impacted when they're exposed by stream erosion that's just out of control, and there's public safety concerns involved with that as well. And then just in general, the quality of life degrades when you see those impacts. So we're just getting started on this Johnson Run project. So as far as current condition, I have some information that we've been able to gather so far, but we're only really a few weeks into the study. But so we talked about a watershed, and I want to drill down to some specifics for Johnson Run. But I love this map. This is Pennsylvania, obviously. These are all the streams. And I think it's just really cool how you can see the ridge lines and everything. So if you take all the streams in Pennsylvania and then draw watershed boundaries around all these little tributaries across the state, it'll look something like this. And then this is just kind of zeroing in on where you guys are. So these are the major drainages in Pennsylvania. Susquehanna being the largest, and then the Potomac is where we are down here at the bottom, we're Franklin County. And then zooming in once more, in Franklin County, here's Mercersburg right over here. And then here's our watershed. So Johnson Run starts on Cove Mountain, comes out across Charlestown Road and Johnston Lane, down through Mercersburg, and then it hits the west branch of the Conococheague. And as Wink mentioned, these watersheds kind of sit inside each other, and they're at different scales. So you have a watershed on your lawn, in your neighborhood. There's a small drainage area that could be considered a watershed. But so Johnson Run flows to the Conococheague, and then the Potomac River, Chesapeake Bay, and eventually, of course, to the Atlantic Ocean. So a couple of maps here of some of the information we started to pull together, and what we're doing is we're grabbing information about the geology and the soils. So there's geology, here's the soil type, soil erodibility, basically how cohesive the soil is and how easily it erodes with overland flow or with stream flow. These are the floodplains in the watershed. Hope you guys can see this in the back. And land use, of course. We're looking at about, I think it's 50, I think the numbers on that sheet that you guys might have, 52% agricultural with a mixture of developed and roadway. Let's see. Yeah, and forest, about 30% forest, I think, which is fantastic. Yeah, there's the numbers. Great. And then what this all leads to, oh no, okay, forgot about this one. This is really cool. You may not, maybe you do know about these sites. The core habitat sites in Pennsylvania is a natural heritage program. And they've identified several places in Johnston Run that have unique habitats or areas of exceptional value, sensitive species, either plants or animals, and there's several here that are really interesting. We're just getting into this, so I don't know everything about these, but I wanted to point them out. This area in blue up here, and I have some copies of these maps too if people want to look at these afterwards, called Charlestown Ponds. And it's great habitat. There's wetland habitats there for amphibians, breeding sites for amphibians, which is fantastic. And then down in the lower area, there's an area called Mercersburg Meadow, which is habitat for the barn owl. And then along the Conococheague, call it Mercersburg Woods, and there's sensitive plant species in that area. So while there is degradation, there's still a lot of interesting, neat habitats in this area. So when we sort of put all this information together, we're trying to sort of paint a picture of what's going on in Johnson Run. And one of the things we know about right now, and it's been mentioned, is the impairment. So the EPA requires all the states to develop a list of impaired waters. They call it the 303D list. And Johnson's Run is on that list. There's various categories, and Category 5 is sort of the worst. And most of Johnson's Run is on that Category 5 list. And these are streams that are impaired, and they're not meeting what they call their designated use. So Johnson's Run designated use for most of their reach is aquatic, warm water aquatic life. Aquatic life use. So basically it's not supporting the fish and the amphibians and the aquatic insects that it should. And the impairment, this is information from Pennsylvania DEP, the impairments are from sediments and nutrients. And nutrients, by and large, in this case, are nitrogen and phosphorus.
I have a question.
Sure.
How many streams and creeks in Franklin County are on that list? Licking Creek, Conacutt Creek?
There's quite a few. Yeah, I mean,
so
if
this
you go,
isn't an isolated thing.
Not isolated. Okay. All this information is on the web. If you search on Pennsylvania DEP for 303D list, I think the Category 5 list is like 3,000 pages. So there's a lot of it out there, and they're just getting around to really dealing with these impairments. And I should mention that there's about 15 miles of streams in the watershed, and the watershed is about 8.5 square miles. And out of that 15 miles, 10 of those miles, or 66%, has been designated as impaired. So what we're going to do now is do a little more assessment. And one of the things we're going to do is a biological assessment. So we're going to go out and we're going to see what kind of fish, what kind of aquatic insects are in the stream channels. And what I have listed here, these are just some examples of the things that we hope to find. But you can tell a lot about the water quality by what kind of animals live there. They're in it, right, all the time. So if there's impairments, they're going to be affected. So some of these fish and some of these insects have very predictable responses to the water quality. So there's some insect, like this stonefly here. This is the larvae of a stonefly. You might see these guys hatching out pretty soon, actually. And there's some winter stonefly that hatch out in February, March. They can only live in really high quality streams with very clear, cold water, not, very little stress. Whereas there's other insects that can tolerate anything. So if you find those insects that tolerate anything, and maybe none of these, then you know you have a problem. Likewise with fish. So we're going to go out, we're going to sample these streams, see what's in there, and see what the water quality looks like. And we are also going to take water quality samples and get those analyzed for nutrients, oils and grease, whole list of compounds that are potentially damaging to aquatic health. Then we're also going to do a stream corridor assessment. And this is where our scientists, environmental scientists, will get out and walk the stream channels. And they're looking just for impacts, erosion sites, areas where the riparian buffer, which is the trees and the shrubs and the meadow areas that are right along the stream channel that help protect the stream bank and keep things stable. You look for those areas where that riparian buffer has been degraded, fish barriers where fish are may not be able to get upstream, so keeping them away from potentially better habitats up or downstream. So we're going to be looking for those types of things, and as we're doing this, they were very clever when they put this stream corridor assessment protocol together, because we look at the severity, correctability, and the access, so SCA. And by defining those things for each site that we come across, we're going to come up hopefully with a list of potential restoration sites. So we don't just want to just go out and find all these sites, we want to find solutions to address those sites. And real quick, these are just some basic management strategies that we're going to be looking towards in the future. Like I said, we're just getting started on this, so this is maybe a little further down the line, but these are the kind of things that we're going to be working towards. Restoration strategies such as stream restoration and wetland enhancements, providing fish passage through those areas that are potentially blocked, also conservation measures. In agricultural areas, you guys know tons of various conservation BMPs that can be used. Right in the neighborhoods, lawn care, education, and pet waste disposal. All these things can add up if everybody's on board and doing these types of things to clean up the waterways. And then just wanted to spend a quick few minutes at the end about the waterway trail to just identify KCI's involvement on this. And so what we're looking at now, working from the feasibility study that was generated recently, is looking at a trail alignment selection. And these are just a list of the things that are sort of the factors as we're working through identifying a trail alignment. Number one on the list being property ownership. We do not, as Liz has mentioned, no ideas on taking eminent domain and taking property. We want this to be a collaborative effort where people are working together. But obviously safety, also environmental impacts while we're trying to restore areas. We don't want to be degrading areas at the same time with the trail, but there are ways to sort of do that in tandem, and then identifying maintenance and cost issues. And the study area primarily is in the Mercersburg borough, basically from about the ball field and kind of where we are now over to Oregon Street, where the channel crosses right up here. So that's the area that we're looking at, kind of through the borough. And then we'll be developing a concept design. So it's not a full plan set that someone would take to construction, but it gets a selected trail alignment with identified access points to the trail, specifics about the surface and the width of the trail, signage, both signs for safe use and for parking and that sort of thing, but also interpretive signage along the way so people can learn some things about Johnson Run, the natural resources and the history as they go. And then developing cost estimates for these, for the full design and for the construction of the trail. And then this is just something I came across recently that I wanted to share. We talk about participation, and this number just struck me when I saw this just a couple of days ago, that 70% of the 17 million acres of forest land in the state is held in private properties. So you can really see how it's all of us that are going to make these types of things work, and it's really going to take a community effort. So I just thought that was interesting. That's a lot of land. Right? And then I think I'm passing it off to
We are not smart
Liz.
enough to manage that kind of real estate. We don't deserve it.
No, that's a question.
Hi everyone, a lot of familiar faces. I'm here today representing my real job, and I've lived in this community for 25 years, and for 10 of those years was the director of the Tuscarora Wildlife Education Project, and that is still very near and dear to my heart. I'm currently president of the board there. But for the last 7 years, I've been a 7th grade life science teacher at James Buchanan Middle School. And so during this organization's many meetings and presentations, I was at one of them, and I heard Dr. Elizabeth say, well, we're thinking about watersheds and Johnston's Run, and my ears perked up, because education today is all about using opportunities in local communities to engage good stewardship and good community interaction for our kids. And so I said to her, I said, well, if you get to that point where we can have kids in the stream monitoring and testing and investing their time because it's their land and their farms and their homes, let me know. Well, many of you know Dr. Elizabeth. She's pretty persistent, and I think I heard from her 6 weeks later. And she said, we're forming this committee, and would you be the education outreach person? And I said, sure. I've got a list of many things, but this is probably one of the most important ones. It's an incredible opportunity for our students to be part of almost every aspect of what Mike just listed. All of the testing, the macroinvertebrate studies, the water quality studies, the riparian buffer plantings, and the creation of a healthier Johnston Run our students can be a part of that. And once this group is gone, our students will still be here, hopefully, because this is a great place to live. 7th grade is a wonderful age. I love it. 6th grade, they come into the middle school, and it's all about changing teachers and changing lockers. 8th grade, they're ready to think about adolescence and boyfriends and girlfriends. But 7th grade, they still have a connection to nature. They still have a passion for their farms and for their animals, and we can really build on that. So 2 other 7th grade teachers and myself have been involved in a professional learning opportunity called Chesapeake Champions. It's an educational outreach program sponsored by National Geographic and National Oceanic Atmospheric Association, and we have been communicating for the last month with teachers all throughout the Chesapeake Bay watershed. Potomac River, Susquehanna, up into New York and down into Maryland. We will be coming together in 2 different workshops, learning about water quality monitoring, about macroinvertebrate studies. We will be getting some opportunity to bring equipment back into our school system. So as we go forward and have this discussion, know that educationally wise, we can be a part of it. Our kids can be invested in it. And there are so many streams just like Johnston Run in our school district that we know our kids care about and can be a part of. So that's why I'm here. Thanks. Who's next?
Apologies in advance, I'm terrible with the microphone. So just give me a high sign or something if I'm making your ears bleed. So now we're going to get to the part where we get to roll up our sleeves and get messy, and it's kind of fun. It's great to have all this information as context and background. And this is the part that where we can really have some fun with this. As Laura indicated earlier, my name is Jen Cotting. I'm with the Environmental Finance Center. We are a regional center that operates throughout the Mid-Atlantic. And I want to echo something that Wink said earlier. We never come into a community intending to tell you what to do. Our role is, what we're really, really good at is helping you figure out how to pay for the things that you do want to do, the restoration and protection activities that you want as a community have decided to move forward on. So that's the role that EFC is going to play in all of this. And you've heard from a few of your community members tonight about what they love about Mercersburg, why Johnston's Run is significant to them, but it's been a very few voices that we've heard from so far. Johnston's Run is a community resource, and we want to hear from the entire community. So this is the part where you get to tell us about the good, the bad, and the ugly. We want to hear all of it. We want honest opinions. There are probably places that are culturally or personally or historically significant about Johnston's Run to you. There are probably concerns. We've heard a few of them tonight. I imagine there are a heck of a lot more. We want to hear all of those too. So you each have maps on your tables. Those of you in the back, I apologize. If you don't have a map on your table, come get friendly with your neighbors, and there's lots of space up front. You also have markers on your tables. We want you to mark up these maps. We want you to indicate the places that are significant to you, the places that maybe there's a concern that you'd like to see addressed as a part of this. You probably have some ideas or concerns that are not location specific. You have comment cards on your tables as well, so we hope that you will use those. You can be anonymous in your comment card, or you can put your contact information if you want one of our team members here to follow up with you and hear more about your concerns and talk to you one-on-one about that. So we're really fortunate we had so many people eager to share their thoughts tonight. So you may not have enough comment cards, you may not have printed enough. If that's the case, just grab one of us and we'll get you paper or something, because we want to record all of it. We want to hear from all of you. So we'll take probably the next. We're running a little behind schedule. Why don't we take the next 20 minutes?
And for one person at the table to just maybe say one highlight of what their group talked about, okay? And we're going to do this quickly so then we can move on. But we will have time again for questions and answers, okay?
You gotta recap our table.
Just keep passing the microphone around.
Yeah,
She'll get back.
How they're planning to cross the trail, if it's going to have to cross Main Street somewhere without being a danger to either the walker or the biker. Thanks. We'll take their turn.
What a joke.
Yeah, I guess our question is, there's part of the watershed that shares being impaired up in the mountains. Does that, when it's impaired up there and there's muddy water potentially running out of the mountains, does that mean that that whole tributary then is listed as impaired? Or, you know, how's it broken down? It's just a question we get.
Well, once again, I do want to say, I just have looked into other areas in the country where they've been doing similar projects, and for very good reasons, but it seems like there's been times when groups, maybe unintended by the initial group, got involved, and they did end up using things like eminent domain or conservation easements to take land that they needed for what they considered to be a very positive thing for their city, but there was disagreement obviously between community members. So I just have concerns about that, and I want this group to be aware of that, that those kind of things can happen.
In what sense has the community decided to do this, if they have? And in the years going forward, who's going to pay for its construction, its maintenance, its security? Where is that money going to come from?
Taxpayers.
That's all right.
Yeah. Repair the stream, make it fishable for children so they don't wear down banks. Keep cows out. Can you clean up burrowing land for a park?
Deer aren't allowed to go to the bathroom. Right.
I actually wasn't in this group, but I was over here. We talked about just some of the, I guess some of the problematic concerns with where the stream comes through the borough. Specifically myself, we didn't necessarily discuss this, but I'm interested in the property where the tannery existed and what can be done with that space. Can you actually dig into the soil there, or if I understand it's under some kind of mitigation because of pollutants? But I would love to see that space become some kind of community park, and more specifically a place for kids, youth and adults alike to skateboard and BMX, have a safe place that is legal and highly visible, usually accessible to youth.
I own property practically right up to the run. So my question was, I have a lot of personal, but I was question was, is this grant, like right now, is it just environmental, or is it
Big up.
tandem with recreational use once it's finished?
Can't use it.
I'm just asking if the trailways and the feasibility study for the health of the run, is it one and the same, or is it two separate issues?
The current technical assistance is coming from National Fish and Wildlife Foundation. It's just to do an assessment. It's not to make any decisions. Does that answer?
Give me
I guess, of course, one question was liability, which has been discussed. And also the use of what exactly would a trail look like from, say, the VFW to Oregon Street, and what that would entail. And of course, these are questions that the designers and what have you would have to work on, and questions that would answer. But it is the only waterway that we have going through our town. And I think we all agree that it would be, if we could use it better and clean it up, we would all benefit from that. And so that's about all I think we covered. Anybody else?
Over here.
No, I was talking with Wink. There are problems along for historical as well as prehistoric sites. One of the things people listed about liking about the town was, that we have a history. And just beyond the VFW here, the land is in the Archaeological Conservancy of Arizona. A portion of it up there by the ballpark. And there's going to have to be negotiations with them if you use any of that. And I'm not even sure whether they'll allow you to use it. On out, there are prehistoric sites and probably possibility of some bundle burials. I see blood out of the stone breakup along the stream. And if you go the other way from the town, the same thing you're going to occur till you get to the Conecuh Jig. So are you building in the possibility of where you put this path that you're going to have mitigation?
Yeah, all of, basically, the watershed assessment will look at the environment and help inform not only where a trail could go if it were decided to be done, but it will also help inform land use decisions in the watershed. Anything to do with historic or cultural would have to be done separately, and you're right, that's an important thing to look at. And that would be following the state and federal laws that are applicable to that type of activity. So all of that would have to be done. Yeah.
For the path, would you propose having lights for it at night?
That's all part of the decision making that needs to be done by the community, and if it's on public property, which a lot of
The muggers need to see
the trail in the borough would be if it were developed, then that's one of the considerations. I've worked in communities where they have lighted trails and they're patrolled, and then I've also worked in communities that have decided not to light the trails and to close the trails at sunset. There's various, opinions, philosophies on that. I've worked with, in a past life when I did the same type of work in Wisconsin, they actually, the Department of Natural Resources actually has a training course for designing trails that are safe in the sense of from personal injury, from from people, jumping someone or whatever. And they're actually part of that course was actually taught by law enforcement officials, and they basically help communities design trails with that with personal safety in mind. And all those decisions really need to be made by either the private landowner, if there is a trail on private land, or by the municipality. Those all have to be made, in that public arena.
More
I have a quick
questions? Over here.
comment I'd like to make. One of the things that was suggested
Get the
was-
microphone.
One of the things that was suggested was that the old tannery grounds would be a wonderful opportunity for a public park. But Mercersburg has a privately owned public park that they don't take full advantage of. Support your local Lions Club, and please encourage your local Lions Club to improve that park. Come out and support their activities that they do to raise money to build that park. That park could be hugely improved. But again, it needs a community coming together. So that's a missed opportunity right there that's ready to go. You can hit the ground running. If they could just, put some money towards that playground, they put the nice fitness trail in there, come out and use that park and make that a true community park.
Linda, back there.
Good evening. I have a question for you. Hopefully everyone can hear. I have a pretty strong voice, so if I'm too loud, I'll pull it away. Anyhow, I have a question here concerning property. If I buy a property that has a trail on it, and I don't really want it, can I dissolve my partnership or the relationship and close this trail? I'd like that one answered. And it's been said that the trail will enhance the value of our properties. Will this trail also increase our property taxes by the enhancement of the value, which was stated recently? Also, I have a half a mile, I own a farm, and a half a mile of my farm, the Conicajig Creek goes through. A half a mile. And I'm very concerned not only with the environmental impact of what it might do in relation to my farm, but I'm also concerned with what rules, regulation, laws, and other proposals that you, DEP, the connectivity trail, whatever, imposes upon my well-being, my right to life, and my happiness, and my ownership. Thank you.
I'll try and remember all of the questions. The first one, it depends in terms of if you buy a property that has an easement for a trail, can you extinguish that? It depends on how that easement or right-of-way was structured legally by the previous owner. If it is an easement, like a conservation easement or something like that, those are done in perpetuity, and that easement rides with the title, so that successive landowners have to abide by that type of a easement, an agreement. If it's an agreement between the landowner and whoever is developing the trail, there'll be a clause, or there should be a clause in there that allows and spells out how that agreement can be extinguished by either party. And so it depends on how the agreement or what type of agreement was actually developed. And that is entirely between the landowner and the entity that's developing the trail. Okay. The second question. Oh, the value. There's been a number of studies around the country that have looked at the economic effects of trails on adjacent properties. What it does in the studies that I've seen is it tends to raise the value of adjacent properties by about 10%. And it also, properties that are equal in value and, the kind of the amenities, the one that's adjacent to a trail will tend to sell much quicker than an equivalent property that is not adjacent to a trail. So it has an attractive factor for the landowner. As far as property taxes go, that's possible. It depends on the municipality. If the municipality zones the area along the trail in a certain way, it may keep the taxes down. Lancaster County has done a similar thing for agricultural land. They structured their zoning and tax so that farmland in the suburban or adjacent to suburban areas is stable, and so there's no incentive for people to develop agricultural land for residential, which was a big issue in Lancaster County because they're trying to preserve as much farmland as they can. So that really is up to each individual jurisdiction. The last question? Boy, I've got a lousy memory. Your last question was?
tax rates.
Your last question.
We got tax rates.
The environmental impact of being downstream. So how would his farm and his Conococheague branch be affected by the Johnson's run?
Basically,
Yeah.
right, basically.
That's a really hard thing to answer, particularly before the assessment's done. But if there are improvements in terms of restoration along the creek, creation of more wetlands, what that tends to do is it reduces the extremes in flooding, and it will improve the water quality so that the water running by you in the lower end is going to be cleaner in terms of the pollution load. And if there is flooding, and I don't know if you experience flooding, but if there are more wetlands developed in the upper end, then that tends to reduce the amount of floodwaters lower down. But it all depends, on what happens in the environmental assessment, what they find in the watershed and that sort of thing. But I do know that when I was working in Kentucky that there were some farmers downstream whose cows tended to get a lot more infection and a lot more diseases. And it turned out that it was from farmers upstream and their cattle being in the stream, polluting the stream and affecting downstream cattle. So the farmers all got together and they figured out what to do, and they all lived happily ever after. That depends on how the farmers interact, and everybody, every private landowner, which you kind of implied, has the right to do basically anything within the law, the existing laws on your property. And nobody can come in and take your property. I mean, sure, there is eminent domain, but there isn't one organization here that has that authority. That's held with the municipalities or some other organizations, other government entities.
But the municipalities received this grant.
They received the grant, but they've not
Actually,
made.
municipalities didn't receive a grant. It's direct technical assistance. Nothing
Yeah.
flowed through the.
But this is a partnership with the municipalities.
It's technical assistance that's being provided to the grantee, which is the municipality. Right.
That's what I just said.
But
They're
it's
the
not, it's not to decide anything. It's to develop information, to make decisions in the future.
Like eminent domain?
I don't know what the municipalities,
Come on. Can I give you an
We
example? Idaho State Journal, October 14, 2010. Eminent domain was sought by privately funded Pocatello Greenway Foundation to finish Greenway Trail System in Pocatello, Idaho. And the planners from Greenway Foundation haven't been able to convince local property owners to give up their land for the project. They are now going to resort to the courts to solve their problems. In early and mid-September, Pocatello City Council will hold hearings to allow the city to seek the right to exercise eminent domain in order to secure the necessary easements to complete the Greenway Trail System. And all the Greenway Foundation is looking to acquire 27 individual parcels of land to complete the ribbon of roadway nestled alongside the Port Neuf River. Idaho State Journal.
Idaho State Journal off the internet?
Yes. Those decisions are made by the folks that you elect in your municipality and the people that they employ. And I'm not going to say,
Well, that's what I'm saying. Unintended consequences can happen from these kind of projects. That's the only point we're trying to make. And people need to be aware and vigilant.
Do you drive on streets and roads? That's the way they got there. I'm not supporting that, I can
But
tell you.
recreational trails are a lot different from necessary streets and roads in terms
Yeah,
of public use.
That's not a necessity.
I can tell you examples where the National Park Service had authority to go in and use eminent domain, and
So now you're admitting that could happen.
no, we have no part in this at all. I'm just saying that we've experienced that in the past, and we've learned.
And we could experience it
We've
again.
learned the hard way. And the other thing is that, I'm not even representing the park side of the National Park Service. The only place that the Park Service even has authority to do anything is within the boundary of a park that's created by Congress. And
So that's
there's-
fine, but municipalities
there's nothing-
and they do have that authority.
Municipalities do. And, you know, you have to make, everybody in the
Well, again,
community
we want
has
to
to
be vigilant.
decide.
We want to be vigilant.
And the thing that I think is terrific here is that there's nothing undercover. There's no agenda, really. The whole point is to,
It's Agenda
you know,
21.
explain the benefits of a clean environment and the importance of safe and healthy recreation and the ability to get our children and our elderly, allow them, you know, safe routes through a community, because they don't have the privilege of driving. Children don't, and elderly can't drive a lot of times, so their mobility is really
Well, no
restricted.
one's disputing the good
So-
reasons why this wants to be done. Again, we just want to be
So-
vigilant and aware of potential unintended consequences.
Well, that's right, and that's why this is such a beautiful thing that MPMC is doing here, is that, you know, they're sharing their ideas, their visions, their thoughts, and it's up to the community as to whether or not you think this is really a good thing or not.
So if the community
And-
decides against it, or a majority, will you stop pursuing it?
Well, that's up, you know, if it's on municipal property, it's up to the municipality and you have to talk to them. If it's on a private landowner's land, it's really up to the private landowner. You know, and there's nothing being forced here. We're just looking at the benefits, and we're seeing, you know, the concerns, and that's very, very important. And, you know, then that's really up to the community at large.
I hope so.
And what I saw in working in Chicago, I worked with neighborhoods who had never ever talked to their elected official. They didn't even know who they were. And they got involved in the project, and they actually started talking with their elected officials. And they started talking to them not just about trails. We started talking to them about really compelling social and economic issues that they were suffering from. And they learned all that through this process.
You started, when you introduced yourself, that you first learned to love the outdoors where? In New Hampshire?
Mm-hmm.
And on whose ground?
On my parents' property.
That they
Yeah.
purchased and owned
Yeah.
and controlled.
Yeah.
They did it the right way. You had a wonderful opportunity.
I also hike a lot on the Appalachian Trail.
That's
That's
nice.
a different situation.
Do you hike alone?
Yeah.
You're very lucky. I would never dream of hiking alone on the Appalachian Trail. I'd be afraid for my safety.
I'm not going there. I am not going to live that way. I don't live in fear.
Now you're not gonna live.
The majority of property in any given area or community is owned by probably 10% of the population, but yet it is to be expected to be used by 100% of the population. The 10% of the population kind of finds themselves on the envy list, kind of like the rich guy that the government's after right now. Well, these rich people, like the property owners and so forth, they're the targets for this. That you have all that property and you don't need all that. We can take some of that and use it for the good of the whole community. If people have something that they want to keep private, that should be up to them to keep it private, and not up to a bunch of elitists who think they're smarter than the average landowner and can find better uses for that property.
It's absolutely up to the individual private landowner. Absolutely. Nobody has said anything different here, I don't believe. Private property rights are a very important thing in the American fabric. You go to England, and it's very different.
But yet you see time and time again where EPA and the environmentalists come in and they take people's property because there's a snail darter there or some endangered lizard or some sort. And it's happened time and time again because people are not vigilant and they allow unelected bureaucrats to decide for them what's best for them.
I'm not going to go there because that really doesn't, that's a whole separate argument, and it doesn't really have anything to do with Mercersburg.
Wait and see.
Well,
See, just in that other example I cited, if I could finish real quick, say one property owner agrees to a trail and they build a trail, but the neighbor doesn't, and then years down the road the community will decide it's best to complete that trail, to connect it. Then that's one time where a local municipality may use eminent domain, just because they deem it best for the community to connect that trail fully.
well, that all depends on the municipality. And and you're the folks that are the electorate, and you're the ones that are the voices. And if you're against something, you should really say that like you are.
Actually, it should be up in the Constitution, really.
Well,
That should decide it.
Or referendum.
there was a question, yeah.
Good evening. My family and I have received 3-year letters to have KCI enter the property and do the assessment.
Yeah.
And I work with 2 other landowners who also received those letters. If a landowner elects not to participate in giving access to for the land to be studied, how will our property be assessed in KCI's study?
It can't be. They can do a lot of other things. Like Mike had mentioned, they can do the macroinvertebrate studies in the areas where they do have access to the creek. And that is an excellent indicator of the health of the creek in general. And we also have access to get water quality samples in various locations where there is access. But in terms of the actual, if you have stream bank erosion on your property and you choose not to have them, not to allow them
You're an
in,
instigator.
then they can't assess that, nor would they be able to make a recommendation as to how, you as a landowner might correct that if you'd like to. We did a watershed plan in upstate New York in a very small watershed. Sydney Center, New York, probably 50 houses in the entire watershed, bigger than Johnson's Run. And the community volunteers actually were trained to do the assessment and actually walked along the creek, filled out field notes and took pictures. And we did the same thing there. We wrote to every landowner, asked them if they would provide permission to allow entry. Some did, some didn't, and that's fine. That's entirely up to the individual landowner. We had access to enough of the stream up there where we could do a fairly good stream assessment. And we identified some things that the landowners could fix if they chose to. But that's really entirely up to the individual landowners. Absolutely.
Maybe Mike, you could help as well. I think there might need to be some clarification as to exactly what we're about. We're not, all this is an assessment. We're not putting a trail in. We don't have the plans for a trail. I mean, it's not actual implementation. We're gathering information. We're gathering what, as a community, that you want. We have money for the help to find financing, and also for our engineers and professionals to be able to give us a clear evaluation of our resources and how we can improve the quality of the waterway that runs right through the middle of our town and impacts everybody. So I think it would be good maybe if Mike, I'll go over again a little bit, what exactly is this study and what this is about? What will be the benefit as a landowner should you decide to let them be on your property and give you an assessment? Like why would you want that? Maybe that would be helpful.
Well, first of all, as Wink mentioned, nobody is under any obligation to allow permission for access to your properties to do the assessments. But obviously, to get the most clear picture of what's going on in the watershed and to really clean up the water, as some people have suggested we should, having the most participation would obviously be the best option. If people are kind of on the fence about it, you're certainly welcome, and we'd love to go out with you, you know, and kind of show you what we do in the field, and you know, we would welcome those opportunities to show you what we do during the assessment. I'll just touch on two things. One is the stream corridor assessment, and that's where we're walking along the channels. There's no impact walking. There's no equipment. There's no shovels, anything like that. There's pictures. We fill out a form, and we take a GPS point so that we can locate that position. There's no other impact to fences or anything, any modifications to anything in the field. The other assessment, which is the specific biological and water quality assessments, sort of the same thing. You'd never even know that we were there. We'd use a dip net, which is just a big net on the end of a pole to collect the aquatic insects. And then it's really cool if people want to come see this. When we catch the fish, we actually use a backpack electrofisher, which is really interesting. So if we're on anybody's property doing that and you'd like to see that, see what kind of fish are in your stream, I think that would be really interesting. And then really we're looking to identify sites that can be restored, sites that we can work with the Franklin County Conservation District to get grant monies and cost share programs involved to just make our waterways a little cleaner. And as Wink mentioned earlier, I mean, Johnson's Run is in a great position. It's a pretty small area, tight-knit community, as I see. And I think really if everybody pulls together, there's really some big impacts that can be made.
Sir, I have a question for you, perhaps two, and you seem very knowledgeable of what you're talking about. So I want to compliment you on being so forthright and letting us know a little bit what's going on and what we're in store for. The statement was made at the beginning of this meeting by an individual, and the statement was, and I'm going to paraphrase, but fairly in quotes. You said, according to Johnson's Run, when it was mentioned about improvements needed, and the individual said that the improvements within Johnson's Run are minimal. My question is, how is Johnson's Run impaired? I don't think that's been asked yet.
I don't know if I'd say it's not minimal when you compare it to something like Baltimore Harbor. Certainly, it's more manageable. The way it's impaired, so the DEP samples these streams, and they look at the same things that we're looking at: the quality of the fish population and the aquatic insects, which, as Liz mentioned, they do some of that monitoring with the students, the benthic macroinvertebrates. And those are the primary indicators, along with the water quality data that they collect, that list these streams as impaired. So Johnson Run right now is listed as impaired and requiring what they call a TMDL, which is a total maximum daily load. For what they use the term siltation, which is just sediment, and that's coming just from runoff from roads, from fields, from stream bank erosion. And that siltation, that sediment, the impact there is that in a place like Johnson Run, the stream
Street a lot during my lifetime, and I have noticed it in areas where timber was removed. That has been a great impact on sedimenting the streams in the area because of the natural runoff that occurs when the canopy has been removed.
Yes, that's exactly it. That picture I showed that just had 100% forest from side to side and top to bottom. I mean, that's sort of what Mother Nature intended, but as we showed, we have to insert people into that equation. And
so the follow-up on that is that what you have to do is you have to educate these property owners that the timber that they have on their property is not really theirs because it's protecting the streams and they shouldn't cut it.
it is theirs. We hope that they choose to protect it, but we can't force them to protect it.
Thank you.
One question. Well, we have another stream in the area called Licking Creek. It's impaired also, as I understand. How come it's being ignored in this project? If you're going to have revitalization, how come you aren't down
that's
there?
another meeting the next time over, I guess.
There you go. Well, I got some ideas why it may not be on the list.
Yeah. Eventually, the counties and the townships and the boroughs are going to be dealing with these types of issues. So.
Does this fall under sustainable development?
Well, that's sort of the other piece of it, and what we're seeing in a lot of communities.
That's a yes.
Well, sustainable development would be if you are developing a property, and I don't know what people use the word sustainable in a lot of different ways, but in this regard with the watershed, sustainable development would be a development that has a smaller impact, smaller footprint on the watershed. You would have more stormwater controls built into that development so that the runoff from your driveways and the roadways are treated, that runoff is treated by a best management practice, stormwater BMP, before it goes to the stream. And what we're seeing now is, so let me back up. 20 years ago we had these big giant stormwater ponds that captured a lot of that runoff. And what we're seeing now is a more diffuse stormwater management with smaller, what they call low impact development, sprinkled throughout the communities. And also looking for just ways to put in pervious pavers and rain barrels and things like that. And I know Laura's going to talk about rain barrels, I think, in a second here. But does that answer your question?
Oh, yeah, that's a lot.
Hooky bailed on us.
He didn't take one there.
Does that help? Raise your hand if it's clarified things for you at all.
What's a BMP?
Yeah, best management practice.
Oh.
Can you raise your hand if having Mike explain that, if it's clear, or is it clear as mud? Is it clear?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, or clear as mud?
No, it's very clear.
It's clear.
Okay.
Clear. It's very clear.
Crystal clear, okay. So, and part of the study, okay, because we did the feasibility study with MPMC, and we are trying to knit back the community together so that we can actually take advantage of seeing and enjoying the beauty that is right within our town, and being able to walk and get out and be healthy,
Because that'll be up to
is
the commissioners.
taking a look at the
It's up-
feasibility
referendums is up to the
and the
commissioners.
actual impact having a path along Johnson's Run would have. And it doesn't mean the whole run, it's whatever we want. There is borough property that is along the run that we're looking at, but putting a path down does have impact. And so part of the engineers, part of designing this is looking at what that impact would be and what it would take to actually install and do something like that. So, Jen, you think it's me now? All right. You've got it set up. Okay. So basically, a lot of people have been asking about financing and how do we do this, and we're taking baby steps. I'm a person that very much believes, and I was raised with, we live in a country that is a country for the people, by the people, of the people, and that is very important to me, and I was raised and trained to be involved in my local community because each person makes a difference and it matters, and this is the community that we make, I'm one individual person. Everybody's way, there's a lot of differences, obviously, but collectively as a group, by being involved, you can make a difference. And we're not going to see eye to eye on everything. I mean, that's what makes our country fabulous. But I am so very, very grateful that all of you are here. I cannot even begin to tell you how much it means to me. And so, I live here, I raise my kids here, I want my grandkids to come back. I'm hoping my children will choose to live in close proximity, which some have. So I want my kids to be able to enjoy playing at the ball field and not being afraid that they're going to fall in or, you know, get sick or whatever. And I think we just have this beautiful, beautiful waterway to take advantage of. So what it means financially is each person needs to volunteer and make a difference and do what you can. Okay, I want to thank all the people who have put time and energy into making this possible. The VFW for opening this room up for us to be able to have our meeting here. Liz George in the hours and hours and hours. You have no idea how much time and love she has put into these projects, and it's because she does care about all of you. Many of you are probably her patients. I don't know who, but I wouldn't be surprised if somebody in this room isn't her patient. And she really does care and love about you and is concerned about your health. And she puts many, many, many hours into trying to make a difference. Becky Wolf and her husband Tom make phone calls and walk door to door, and they're a wonderful example of how people who care about the community can be involved.
For the wolves. You folks are pretty large landholders. Are you proposing any of these public trails on your properties?
I don't think there was any on the feasibility study, no, at this time.
Okay.
Could we just finish up right here? We'll have a time for question and answer. Maybe that would be something to talk to them afterwards, okay? I just want to thank people for the time they put in. And one way that we can afford things like this is for people to use their volunteer services. And it's an important thing that we even teach to our children. And Liz talked about the education system. When kids can get involved hands-on and really come to understand things firsthand, it makes a difference in their lives. So just real quickly, I have a little slideshow. And these are rain barrels. This is just one community, kids that created rain barrels to conserve our water. I'm still learning about rain barrels and the advantage and what they do.
Oh, come on.
Kids planting trees.
Jump in.
We talked about deforestation. You know, I understand that it's really, my husband has made cabinets and uses wood, and I'm not opposed to cutting trees down and using wood for building. We need to do that. But then we can also replant trees and getting our kids involved, and what a difference that makes. And stream cleanups. And I just came from Indonesia. And Indonesia is a country that, you know, we call third world. But they, you know, we hear about Bali and the beauty of the beaches. And it grieves me because they have so many beautiful natural resources at their hands, and there's plastic trash bags everywhere. There's so different things, and you know, we're not like that. You know, we have learned somewhat not to throw litter down and not pollute. But there's certainly cleanup that our kids and we can be involved in and making a difference. And this is just a storm drain graffiti. The kids were looking for volunteers who like artwork. Now, it may not work in our historical town, but this is just an example of what one town decided to do so that people were aware of where the water would go and the runoff, so that they might think twice about what kind of chemicals they're dumping nearby. This is some more. And these are the kids getting involved. So those are just examples. We need lots of volunteers. We're going to need, I need my list.
It's got weird. Space Lady's still here though.
Okay, so just by being here, you're volunteering and making a difference in your community. Okay? I really appreciate it. We're going to need to have cleanups, different times that, you know, people can go through and start. If you see a piece of litter, pick it up. I know having McDonald's, they walk up South Street, and a lot of times people just kind of drop trash along the way, and just pick it up. Then, you know, artists, we're going to need people to do web designs, that do promotion, that, you know, like the storm drains or the rain barrels or whatever we decide. There's also, we can do water gardens and planting different kind of flowers and different things along the way. We're going to need gardeners to help with establish a garden program, weed warriors, trailblazers. You know, the scouts are interested in being involved in possibly helping out with the building of the trails. There's a lot of different opportunities. Fundraising, obviously, and different ways to raise the money to help improve the quality. There's just a lot of things that are going on. If you know how to write grants, grant writing. So, Facebook, maintaining a Facebook site. So, I just want to thank you all for coming out tonight and all your involvement. Is there anything else? And Liz is going to be closing.
Fertilizing with bullshit.
I'm actually speechless.
Yeah, me too.
You guys are great, and this is an amazing turnout, and I think it does show that you really care about your property and you care about your community. So next steps, they will be, this is all great information for all the information gathering that's going on, and it takes a lot of gathering of information and planning before you can do anything. And there's opportunities for you all to be involved in those. You would be welcome to come be a representative on the Johnson Waterway Council. We meet on the first Tuesday of every month over at the Environmental Center. So anybody would be welcome to bring their talents to the committee that you've seen here. I would encourage you to attend the next community workshop, which should be in April. If you are, I would encourage you to consider, if you haven't already given permission to them, to assess the waterway in your area. And also continue to let us know about your concerns. If you think of things after you leave, you can give Laura a call or email. And then, as Laura said, you can volunteer for fun and just keep providing your input and talents. And Laura Laura deserves an amazing amount of thanks for her work on this. Laura is the project manager, and she is really, with great passion and commitment, moving it along step by step.
What couple?
So give yourselves a big hand for being here for all the work I did.
Six.
Well, you deserve a bigger hand. Thank you all very much.
That's it.
Okay, I'll get it passed out.
Okay. Yep.
Oh, okay. They moved it on the website today. It got really bizarre. I didn't, I wanted to name the elephant in the room, but I didn't want to disturb it. Come by out. Is that why? Yeah, I mean, what's the point? I mean, this is so weird.
Totally stupid. Was I